Now these brackets mount on the body of the car. I'll just focus on the car in there. They go on the side there, and what they do is provide an area that the side panel, the engine side panel, can rest against and provide support for that panel. Now the side panel of course comes right up to the radiator support mount there, and so it's held there and it goes back to the body there. So this section here is actually covered with webbing. Now I've just purchased some polyester webbing, and I'll probably put 3 layers of it on. It's got 3 layers there, which makes it reasonably thick. Now, as I say, the side panel will rest against that or be held against that, so you need something that's not going to cause any major friction and have one piece of metal rubbing directly against another. So this will hold that apart and hopefully hold it in the correct position. So what I've got to do now is to actually rivet those in. I'll just do that in a second, and then mount these on the car. Now this is the driver's side engine side panel. I haven't flattened the paint yet, and obviously if I haven't done that I haven't buffed it. So what I intend to do now is to flat the surface and then go through the process of buffing. Now I want to do it off the car because it's a lot easier to do on a flat surface. The problem that I'm going to have is when I'm cutting this surface back is not to actually cut through the paint, particularly on the edges, things like this, these edges here and those edges there. So I've got to be very careful when I'm doing it that I don't rub too much around the edges. So it'll take a while. Paint's certainly well cured, it's not a problem, but I just got to be very careful when I do it. I probably won't cut it right back down to these areas because these are actually hidden by the front mudguard itself. So the bolts for the guard go through these holes. So I don't have to go right down to the bottom, but I'll certainly have to go close enough to there to make sure it's properly buffed. Now I've buffed this panel ready to put on. Sort of attracts dust like a magnet. I flatted the paint. It took, well, just to repeat the process I use, I start with 2000, then 3000, followed by 5000, and then on this I've just applied one buffing compound, which is the heavy cut compound. Now even with that I apply that 3 times just to get the initial buff. So that's got quite a shine on it. You probably can't see, it's very hard to see with white. I'm not buffing it anymore. I think I've said that before too, because I'll get a lot of fingerprints and everything else on it while I'm trying to fit it. Now that's ready to fit up against the car. You'll see in there, let's focus in a bit. This front panel I've also buffed, so I'll start on this side and try and fit the panel in place. Now I'll just go in the garage a second, I'll just pause it. Now, as I've also said before, I'm fitting this on to get the position of the mount. So I've got to get that position correct before I can start to play around with the radiator. and that requires putting in this side panel. Also the top stay, which will go to the piece that covers the top of the mount there, and the although that bolts to the mount, I've managed to find these brackets here, which, make them around the right way, probably that way, which will actually, I think at this stage, mount onto the top bolt here of the shroud, and then that enables the side panel to bolt onto that. So I've got to trial all of that. It's also the bottom panel I've got to go in there, which I've just got over here in another part of the garage. Which is this panel here. Now that fits along the bottom. Now I was a bit confused about these holes on the bottom here. I thought they actually mounted onto the chassis, but they don't. Now the only reason I know that is because I found a couple of old panels here, which I assume probably might have, these ones might have come off the 49, I'm not sure, but they have a padding that's, I think it's probably riveted onto the bottom, so that padding probably sits over the top of the chassis, so I've got to find something suitable for that. Thinking at this stage I might use a bit of heavy conveyor belt that I've got, cut that up to serve the purpose. So I've got the pieces ready. It's now just a case of seeing how it all assembles. Now it was my intention to actually start putting the side panels on, and I was hoping to work from the top down, but that's a bit of a mistake, because really I need to put the mud guard on, which I really didn't want to do at this stage, and then build from the bottom up. And the reason for that is that the other positioning point for the side panels is the side of the mud guard, so really I need this in place first, and then fit the side panels and get the positioning right. So anyway, that's what I have to do, but seeing I'm going to put that on, I might as well buff this panel up. Now it hasn't been done either, and I haven't flattened the paint either, so this is going to take a fair while, and that's why I've left it so long. It's a big panel, lots of curves, lots of places where you can accidentally rub through, so it's going to take quite some time to flat this and then do the initial buff. So I might as well start. As I say, I didn't really want to do this, but I might as well, seeing I've got to put it on. Once I get it on, I might as well leave it on the car rather than try and put it away again into storage. So anyway, I'll start. Now I know I have some viewers that watch out my videos for wildlife. I'm just sitting here rubbing the mudguard back. Almost under my chair here is what we call an eastern water dragon lizard. This is one of many running around under my chair. There he goes. Running over there, chasing insects. Why they can't chase them somewhere else, I don't know. But there's two of them. That's the larger one, That one's a male because he's got a... Whoop, he's gone. I'll have to turn around, he's behind me now. Wait a second. There's two of them there. The female is the small one on the right there. He's coming right up. Once again, picking up insects. That's the smaller one, and the bigger one is behind. There are colonies of these in my backyard. I've got large fish ponds. They love the water, but he's right under my chair now, pretty much. Not scared of you. You'll find them sitting on your chair, sitting on all sorts of things. They climb trees, obviously swim in the water. The only thing they do that's a worry is that they quite often stand still. You don't notice them until you're right on top of them, and then there he is between my feet, and then they'll start to run off and scare the hell out of you because you think it's a snake. All you see is the long tail disappear. Quite harmless. As I say, everywhere. Territorial. These two have got a territory here. There's another large one right up the other end of the yard with his own group of lizards. The big ones chase each other. They're quite angry if they cross over territory, but anyway, another piece of wildlife. I don't mind the wildlife, as long as I don't stand on the panels. I haven't done that yet. They've been up on the sawhorses, but yeah, running around your feet. So anyway, just another aside. It's not only birds, we have other reptiles running around. Occasionally I have lace monitors, which are all, people also call them goannas. They can get up to the ones that I've had in the backyard here, sort of walking up through here, almost 2 meters long. They're a bit more scary. Tend to not come too close, and I'm glad of that. They also climb trees. I've had a 2 meter one climb this tree behind me, which is not short, get right up the top. So yeah, these ones aren't bad, but the lace monitors are a bit of a worry. Now I've finished flatting the paint. The last cup was 5,000. I've put the guard on the car. It's not an easy process. It takes two people because of the length of it. 3 bolts down in here. They're just loosely put in. Just got some rubber pads in there at the moment so it doesn't scuff the body. The other end is 2 bolts up under there, and they go onto this mount that bolts onto the radiator surround. So it's one of those 2 bolts in the end there. Not easy to line things up just to get the bolts in place. The 3 back ones are bad enough, but these ones up in here, the part that they bolt onto is actually welded to the side of the guard, which means you can't get clean access to the rear of that plate. Basically you've got to reach in there with your fingers and try and put the nuts on the end. So that is the hardest bit to put on. Now I haven't bolted everything up completely. In other words, I haven't bolted it onto this side panel. Once again, I've got a rag in there just so it doesn't damage anything. Now the reason I've done that and not completely bolted things up is that I'm actually going to buff this on the car. Now, while it wasn't appropriate to try and flat the paint on the car because you're using water and all sorts of rubbing at different angles, in particular these fine lines here, around here, down here, these sharp edges, was very easy to actually cut through. So buffing, it won't be so much of a problem because I'm going to buff this by hand. So I'm going to buff it while it's just got a temporary location on here. So dust seems to catch on everything. So I'll start that now. Once it's buffed, then I'll look at finalising the position and putting these other plates on. So I haven't even put the bottom side engine plate on yet, but I want to buff it first, and then when I position it I'll actually position it with the seal, the piping seal that goes in between the panels. So at this stage the intention is to buff it. It should be solid enough even though it's not firmly bolted in place. I haven't nipped any of the bolts up. In fact, I haven't even nipped this main frame up because I may need some movement to actually do the alignment. So anyway, buffing, that's what I'm about to do. I've finished buffing the guard. I'm only doing one buff, as I've said before, so I'm going to get fingerprints all over this. I've just started to see the position of the guard, whether it's right. I've got the weather strip in the side there, just loosely dropped in so I don't damage things. Bit of a rubber pad there so I don't damage that. It's nothing's lined up properly yet, so what I've got to do is get an even gap on this, and at the same time be able to mount the guard on the support here and be able to line up all the holes in the side panels and the bottom panel. I haven't got the bottom panel in yet. It's the top panel that will actually help set the distance. So there's a fair bit of adjustment to do yet till I get it right. So that's something that I'm just going to have a bit of a think about before I go too much further. And the other problem is I still don't have the chrome surround back, so I probably need to get everything in position before I actually lock everything up.